This is the Greek Independence Day Roundtable. Celebrate 203 years of Greek independence. 77 WABC.
Γεια σας, παιδιά. See, now it works, okay? Margot, why don't you come up with me? Margot and myself. And see, that way I don't get in trouble. Margot, you've been doing Greek Independence Day with me for 100 years.
Yeah.
And I wanted to welcome everybody here today. And we use, like I said to everybody, we use the bullets at our disposal. WABC is one of the most powerful radio stations in America. And I chose to make sure we celebrate Greek Independence Day. We are in 173 countries and 50 states. And look, I said this to everybody. I love America. I pray for America. But when I ever go to Greece, I always have tears in my eyes. Margot, we went to Greece the first time you went with me. I remember.
I was very young.
August 1977. Right? Can you tell us a few things?
No. I don't know you.
No.
I'm the shy one.
What's the last? No. And my chief of staff, another Greek, George Venizelos. And my person that handles Greek operations for our company, Effie Piper. And I'm glad everybody's here. And Phil Christopher, he's on Cyprus time. He'll be here. He'll be here, but he forgot that Cyprus is another hour behind. But he's a good kid. I went to school with Philip 100 years ago, so we know each other for a long time. What is the program? And I was going to call Effie up here, and I'm going to call Ernie, and you guys run the program. Ernie, you've been doing this for 50 years. I didn't want to say more than that.
I've had too much fun, John.
I didn't want to say more than that. You've been doing it for 50 years.
Okay.
Can I say anything?
Just 3 words.
3 words.
Okay.
Trialoia.
No. I just want to say, Fanny, I've known so many of you since maybe like 40-some years, and it just really warms my heart that we're all in the same room together to celebrate Greek Independence Day. And thank you all so much for being here.
Okay, Effie.
Kalimera, Kalispera. I'm so happy to see you all here. Allow me to start by welcoming first His Excellency, the Consul General of Greece, Ambassador Dinos Konstantinou, and our roundtable distinguished guests, Paulette Poulos, Anastasios Koularmanis, Ernie Anastas, and yes, Phil Christopher, who is coming. But our biggest thanks go to John and Margot Katsimatidis at WABC Radio, its president, Chad Lopez, and the staff of WABC that worked so hard to put this together. I would like to welcome each one of you who took the time from their busy schedule to be with us today. And we have with us presidents and participants of almost all the Greek organizations. From HANAC, Mr. Drakotos, the Hellenic American Chamber of Commerce, the Bankers Association, the Hellenic Lawyers, the Hellenic Congress, Leadership 100, Capital Link, Hellenic Cultural Foundation, Hellenic Film Society, many lawyers, doctors, and distinguished entrepreneurs. And, of course, friends of Greece and the Greeks and Greeks. On the 25th of March, Greeks celebrate a historical and a religious holiday, A religious one, as we celebrate the Annunciation by Archangel Gabriel to the Virgin Mary that she would become the mother of Jesus Christ. March 25th is exactly 9 months before Christmas. A historical holiday as we celebrate the beginning of the War of Independence in 1821 against the Ottoman Empire. For 400 years, Greeks endured religious persecution, political oppression, and economic exploitation. Today, Greeks all over the world, they come together. They raise flags at their homes and at the public buildings. We have school and military parades, and remember our history and our traditions. So today, we're going to remember our history with our panel guests. We're going to celebrate our heritage with the Greek folk dances. We're going to be entertained by Greek music and singing and dancing. And we're going to have delicious food, complimentary catered by Kima Restaurant. I saw Mr. Tenedios before. I don't know if he's still here. We want to thank him. And also, we want to thank the National Greek Tourism that has provided booklets with information about Greek destinations. So we have prepared the program for you right off the press, and you will see the sequence of events. But we will start with the national anthems, which will be sung by Mr. Kostas Tsurakis, who is an Assyrian from Nika. He's an opera singer. He's the director of music ministry of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese Cathedral. He's a certified teacher specializing in music. He's skilled in opera and Greek culture and Greek music. And he's the founder of the Frank Sinatra School Alumni Association. He went to the Frank Sinatra School. I thought you might like that. So please come.
Σε γνωρίζω από την όψη του σπαθιού την τρομερή. Σε γνωρίζω από την όψη που με διαμετράει τη γη. Απ' τα κόκαλα βγαλμένη των Ελλήνων τα ιερά και σαν πρώτα ανδριωμένη χαίρε ελευθεριά και σαν πρώτα ανδριωμένη χαίρε ελευθεριά και σαν πρώτα ανδριωμένη χαίρε ελευθεριά. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Hey, Phil is here. Yasser, Phil.
Big entrance. Big entrance.
Let's have a standing ovation for the chairman.
Hey, Phil is here. Yasser, have a seat here, my boy.
It wasn't easy.
No, no problem.
from
There you
Long
go.
Island.
You got it. Okay?
You want to say a few words before we get started?
Well, first of all, I'm sorry I'm late. Second, I want to thank John, my good friend, for doing this every year. And the most important is for all of you to participate in the events, in particular Sunday, April 14th, when we're going to march for the sake of the Hellenic ideals, the Hellenic values that we believe in, and that are so important to us. The Greek American community is the first in education across the United States, second in national income. And this is the time for us not only to celebrate our 203rd anniversary of Greek independence, but at the same time, it happens that we have a dark anniversary, the 50th anniversary of the invasion and occupation of Cyprus. And, you know, we as American citizens, believing in those Hellenic ideals and those values, we should be embarrassed that we have allowed this to happen. And second of all, for this to exist and an occupation force, occupation troops being subsidized by American taxes to exist in Cyprus for 50 years. That's all I have to say. I'm doing this, I believe in this, and I need your help to make sure that we have the most successful parade on April 14th. Thank you.
Okay.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Whatever that was.
Now I would like to call upon our Consul General of Greece, Ambassador Dinos Konstantinos, to give us a congratulatory message.
Καλημέρα σε όλους και χρόνια πολλά. First of all, and before my remarks, I would like, on behalf of the Hellenic Republic, to say a big thank you to John and Margo Katsimatidis, not for only hosting this event every year, but what they have done for Greece throughout the years. And thank you very much for this indeed. It's a great pleasure to be here and see so many prominent members of our Greek American community, besides all the panelists, I see very familiar faces. I have to tell you, for Greek diplomats like myself, it's a great source of pride to serve abroad and see people that have excelled in their profession, but they still have Greece in their hearts. It's really very, very moving. Allow me to say a few words about this very special day, a historic day, I would say, for the world, which is the Greek Independence Day. This day holds profound significance not only for the people of Greece, but also for Greeks abroad, including Greek Americans who carry the legacy of their ancestors with them, enriching the tapestry of the United States of America with their culture, traditions, and resilience. As we reflect on the journey towards freedom that Greece embarked upon almost 200 years ago, we are reminded of the timeless values that have bound our nations together. Greece, the birthplace of democracy, the cradle of democracy, and America, the beacon of liberty, share an unbreakable bond founded on the principles of freedom, justice, and of course, democracy. From the birthplace of democracy in ancient Athens to the drafting of the United States Constitution, our nations have championed the rights of individuals to govern themselves, to speak their minds, and to pursue their dreams without fear of oppression or tyranny. It is this shared commitment to the democratic values that unites us across continents and oceans. In this, actually, I would say, troubled era that we all live in a world that faces so many challenges, the quest for Greek independence is more relevant than ever. What is more relevant than the story of a nation, small in numbers, but enormous in heart and soul, taking up arms and enduring all kinds of sacrifices to gain its independence? What is more relevant than a nation fighting endlessly for liberation from despotism and authoritarianism. Because this is exactly what our Greek ancestors did back in 1821 by engaging in a bloody struggle for the freedom. And make no mistake that the toll in loss of lives was very big. The self-sacrifice of the Greeks moved the stance of the then great powers from a negative one to a positive one. The news of the heroic Greeks spread like fire and reached not only Europe, but the United States of America as well. The American nation, having fought for its own independence a few decades earlier, actively supported the Greek cause. The United States recognized in Greece itself a freedom-loving nation that wants to control its own destiny. And from 1821, that Greece and US built their excellent and close relations based not only on common interests, but more importantly, on shared values. 203 years ago, ladies and gentlemen, after the Hellenic independence, Greece has undoubtedly made enormous progress and is a pillar of peace in the greater area of the southeastern Mediterranean. Our efforts are recognized by all members of the international community, including, of course, the United States of America. We all know that New York City here is one, if not the most important city of the planet in many aspects, and it also occupies a special place in the hearts of all Greeks. For it is here in this great city of this great nation that many Greeks came and built their future for themselves and for their families. We thank New York for welcoming the Hellenic community and allowing it to prosper and advance. In addition, I would like to thank all the members of the Greek American community for reminding all that the heart of Hellenism beats strong in the American continent. Ζήτω 25 Μαρτίου, ζήτω η Ελλάδα, and thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
And now we will start with a roundtable discussion. We have with us, in addition to John Katsimatidis, the chairman of Red Apple Group and WABC radio owner, Ernie Anastos, news anchor, New York Emmy Award-winning television news anchor, and talk show host on WABC with Positively Earning. Everybody knows Ernie. Philip Christopher, President and CEO of American Network Solutions, President of Pan-Cyprian Association of America, Chairman of the Greek Independence Day Parade, Paulette Poulos, the Executive Director of Leadership 100, Archbishop Iakovos Endowment Fund, and Anastasios Koularmanis, Director of Greek Education of the Greek Orthodox Archdiocese of America.
Very well. Thank you, Effie. Well, you know, I've never done this before. I'm going to say, Kalimera σας, χρόνια πολλά και ζήτω η Ελλάς. Καλώς ήρθατε. I'm so happy to be here today. What a great celebration. Your Excellency, honored guests, we're so proud and happy to be celebrating today. You know, there are so many things that I want to talk about today. And, you know, many things have been said about the significance of this day, but we're celebrating in many different ways, all around the country, and certainly in Greece. And people are proud of their heritage. I've covered so many parades in New York. Certainly the most important to me was the Greek parade, and we have that coming up. But I've also covered the Puerto Rican Day Parade, the Israeli parade. I've had an opportunity to do these things in so many ways, and New York City is a great melting pot. I've always said New York is the whole world in one city. Over 200 different languages are spoken in this city. That's incredible. But to me, the Greek language and the pride that we have is so enormous. And when I see the faces of the little children, when we're at the parade, and we see the little kids who are out there smiling and waving their flags, and I remember, and that's what I want to talk about to get us started, I remember my memories as a child. I wore the fustanella, the tsaroukia, and I was there giving my little speech in front of the Greek school, and I'll never forget how proud I was and how happy I was. And this is what we have to do to make sure that our children remember what they're doing and why they're doing it. I want to start, because we have a lot of good issues to talk about. First of all, we have to again thank John and Margot for doing such an outstanding job, because I've known John and Margot for over 40 years. And they are the two most beautiful people in the world in terms of their heart and what they give and what they know is important to all of us. And so we're grateful for you, John and Margot. We thank you so much for presenting this forum for us today. Thank you so much. Okay, I'm going to start with Paulette. Paulette, I gave a little hint of what it was like for me to wear my fustanella and to give my speech. What do you remember? Growing up as a little Paulette, what stood out in your mind, right? As a little Paulette, what do you remember most as being proud of your Greek heritage?
Ernie, I think the biggest moment I had was when the Sunday school said, you're going to lead our group in the parade and we're going to do some Greek dancing. And I taught Greek dancing to many of the young people. So there I was standing in front of all of these diplomats, and I thought my feet were going to freeze. But I have to tell you truthfully, it was something that will live with me forever. As I stood there and heard people yelling, Zito, Yalada, Zito,
Yes.
I came back feeling 100% plus Greek.
Oh, that must have been a great feeling. What an enormous memory you have. How old were you when that happened? How old were you?
11.
11 years. That wasn't too long ago. 11 years old.
Remember what Cardinal Spellman used to say.
Yes.
There's 3 stages in life: young, middle-aged, and you look wonderful.
You look wonderful. I love it. Anastasios, you and I share the name, Anastasios. I've always been very happy and proud of that name. And we have certainly, Easter's coming up a little late this year, but we have our celebration, our name day on Easter. Anastasios, your memory. Tell us about what goes back into your mind when you were just a little boy. And where were you growing up?
I grew up in Corona, Queens.
In Corona, Queens. Okay. What memories do you have as a child?
For me, I remember the poems we had to learn for our Greek school. And I remember being maybe 4 or 5 years old. And as we were reciting it, the Greeks would clap at a certain word. So you were told to emphasize Zito, and everybody would erupt. And it was shocking. You were like, oh, I must be doing a good job. And and also how proud our parents were from a simple poem that we carried on, that language, that tradition, and that culture. And for me, it's those memories growing up in the first generation of Greek Americans coming overseas, and not only our parents but our grandparents, who I guess carried on that torch and brought it over here in the United States and made sure that we continued that passion.
Yes, and we're going to be talking about that. I'm going to move on, but I'm sure all of you are listening right now and have memories, don't you? If we had the microphone out there, you could all give us a little story about what you remember as a child. Phil, I'm saving John for last. Phil, tell me something. When you were a little boy, the memories that come back to you with your family and something that really stood out, what was it?
Well, let me just say this. I had an advantage, perhaps because I was born in Cyprus. And when I came, I was 10 years old, so I was a little bit more advanced in terms of the patriotism, the national anthem, and all that. But I went to St. Demetrius, and John went to
Greek American Institute.
the Greek American Institute in the Bronx. I never wore a fustanella. By the way, I should say, when I was 10, my sister Fanny was 2 when she came here. She came from Cyprus as well. So at St. Demetrius, a Greek American school in Astoria, we had to learn the poems and we had to learn the songs and everything else. But it was an experience that I will always remember. I never wore a fustanella. Because I was
it's never too late,
I was a soccer player, so they dressed us in the soccer uniforms.
Oh yeah,
and marched with with our soccer uniform. But you're right, Ernie. The experience will forever be there for us. And I lived it with my son too.
Wonderful.
We went to St. Paraskevi, and he had to do all those things as well.
So we passed it on to our children. We may have a fustanella somewhere in the back there that we could have you parade around in that today.
Yeah.
John, I know you have some very interesting memories because you have so many stories to share. You do it all the time on radio. Get personal with us about your Greek heritage and what you remember when you were just a little guy.
Well, my father married my mom when he went back to Nisiros, Mandraki, Protevusa. And there was a Greek book that somebody put out, and it was called originally 8 Weddings and a Sacrifice, Effie. And we're going to bring it back.
Good.
Where my mother was was wronged because they sent a person that was supposed to come back and marry her, sent her to the Athens to get an education in being a lawyer. See, you don't trust lawyers. You know? and he sent her a note. I'm not coming back. I fell in love with somebody else. And that's it. And my mother went into deep depression. And it's all in my book. And Effie, whoever has not received my book, we could bring them downstairs and give them out. I went to PS 192 kindergarten on 135th Street, across the street from City College. And it was, I didn't know how to speak English. The only way I learned to speak English, I had a 5-inch Emerson TV set.
Oh, yeah.
And by listening to it, I learned how to speak English, which took me at a disadvantage of going to school and going to PS 192. And then later on in the 5th grade, I remember Hazir Dimitriou from Niceros was the principal of the high school. And he was a wonderful person. And Carol Contos is his daughter. He it's so many memories. And I always loved Niceros. My kids fell in love with Niceros. And I always have, I've said it, I've had tears in my eyes whenever I go back to Greece. And I understand Greece is making a big comeback. And whatever we can do to help, we all want to help.
You know, when I think back, I mean, you mentioned speaking Greek. That was my first language, too. I grew up in a small town in New Hampshire. A lot of people probably don't know that. My grandfather was one of the first 100 ordained priests in America, Father Anastasiou. And I remember, you know, Grandma, Yaya, and Papu at home, and I learned Greek. And when I went into broadcasting, people said, how come you don't have a New England accent? And I think it's because I spoke Greek first, and then I learned English. So I never acquired, you know, that Harvard Yard Boston accent. And it's really amazing. But, you know, it was wonderful growing up in that home. And I'll tell you one quick story. I won't bore you with this. But when I first went into a major television radio station in Boston, they changed my name because it wasn't popular to be ethnic in 1968. And I remember, you know, the news director said, do you mind being called Ernie Andrews? And I said, well, I suppose I could handle that for a while. And I went with the name Andrews. And I stayed with it until I went into television. And finally, when I went into television, I went to the general manager and I said, I'm going to be starting in Providence, Rhode Island, and I'd like to use my own name. I'm proud of my Greek name. He said, sure. He said, I was thinking, though, that we would change your name to Keith Andrews. That was it. So I was the first Greek-American anchorman in our country and certainly in New York, and I really am humbled by that. And I always give thanks to my Greek background because they gave me the enthusiasm, the kefi, you know, the personality, the hospitality that we all have. You can feel it right now. You can feel it in this room. We could have a wedding in here right now if we wanted to, right? I want to talk about some interesting things. The Greek culture is so rich. I mean, we have given so much to Western civilization and to the rest of the world. And, you know, whether it's drama, whether it's medicine, mathematics, science, gymnastics, whatever it happens to be, I'd like to ask what we're doing now to perpetuate so much of those wonderful Greek ideals and the programs that we're involved with. Paulette, let's start with you. Leadership 100, which I'm also a member of. Tell us about what you're doing within the Greek community and within our church to help perpetuate some of these wonderful ideals that we need.
Leadership 100, as you know, its primary mission is to promote Hellenism and Orthodoxy here in America. And what we have done with the $75 million that you have also helped, and of course, John and Margot, and also they just completed their pledge for their children. Thank you so much. But what we have done is transform those dollars into ministries. Hellenism is very important to all of us. we just finished a wonderful conference. Some of the people are here and they can attest to this. 725 Greeks came to Naples, Florida. When we got there, the manager said, "Paulette, are they going to break plates?" I said, "No, but have a few paper ones on the side just in case." Because our kids were unbelievable. 300 kids dancing Greek from their villages, from their chodyo. It just brought tears to all of our eyes. Young kids, bringing them together. We've had a few marriages as a result of Leadership 100. But more importantly, the kids remember that they're Greek. They had shirts. Proud to be Greek.
Yes.
So we were so proud.
Yes.
We had the waiters speaking Greek at the end. But the reality is we have given money to educational programs. We want to see Greek education continue. We're very blessed to have a consul general in Dino here. He has done a magnificent job. We just completed the Honoring Women Month. Last year, I was one of the first honorees of that and participated. How many Greek American women have gone up the ladder to be successful engineers, scientists, doctors, meeting these people through your group and all the programs that you do, Dino, to promote Hellenism in America. This is what leadership is doing. Leadership is not about money. It's about programs. Greek education, and Anastasi can attest to this fact. Our Greek schools need to stay open. We've had to close many Greek schools because of funding, because we don't have money to pay teachers. Leadership is going to come forward and offer an additional grant to help preserve Hellenism and Greek education.
Wonderful, wonderful. Paulette, we're so proud of you. I mean, you mentioned so many women who are doing wonderful. Reminds me, God made man and said, "This is good." And then he stopped and he said, "I can do better." And then he made woman.
That's right.
So, we're proud of you for all you do. Anastasios, I want to talk to you for a minute. The language is so important. I have children, I have grandchildren, and trying to make sure that they learn the language is so difficult, is it not? And it's not just us. If you talk to people from other various ethnic groups, it's the same problem, trying to teach them the language, the traditions as well. What are we doing and how can we help, whether it's in our schools, at home, in our churches, to help to perpetuate the Greek language?
Well, His Eminence Archbishop Epidophorus has put an emphasis on the Greek language upon his arrival. We continue with our afternoon Greek programs. We have over 350 programs throughout the country. Many students are fortunate, like Ms. Katsimatidis and Mr. Christopher, that attended Greek schools, that are full-day Greek schools. So we continue to promote those programs. We have over 25,000 students attending these programs. A lot of Greeks are pushing, and a lot of communities are pushing charter schools, where I know it's important for our children to learn the Greek language, but it's also important for others. So we may continue to promote our culture, our heritage, our language to the diaspora, where you see charter schools with thousands of students that are non-Greek speaking the Greek language, and that's important because they begin to see how important it is, not only to the Greeks, but to the United States. The Greek language is rich. You can find it in most fields. So we must preserve it. But as Paulette said, financially, to run a school, to run programs, it's costly, and we need the support of the community so that we may be able to continue to keep our day schools open. St. Demetrius is the only Greek American high school in the world outside of Greece.
Yes.
It's the largest, it's probably the furthest we have gone in education that we've opened. And we have to keep these schools open. These are something our forefathers done. When Greeks came from Greece, they opened churches and schools. They wanted to retain those languages. So everywhere there was a church, a school opened up. And we need to continue that. We talk about the revolution. We talk about 400 years of occupation where Greeks fought to preserve our language. They did. And yet we live in a country now where there is no stigma or there is no something stopping us from learning the language and promoting it. Yes, it is difficult for children like yourself.
Yes.
We've created online programs. We just started an online adult program, and in a matter of weeks, we had 250 applicants. We partnered up with universities in Greece to offer language programs teacher training programs, and that's another issue that we have.
But online has become very popular too.
Yes, it is, but we have to be careful because we are taking students away from our communities.
Right.
And when we go to a community, we're helping not only the language, Ernie, but we're helping our church. And for Greek American, language, religion go hand in hand. It's who we are. It's on our identity, and we need to work on those together.
So much so. Anastasi, thank you for that. You know, yes, we can applaud because you're doing outstanding work. And you know, I think we all understand something, that we're all facing challenges. Challenges in so many different ways to try to maintain what you're talking about. Phil, you know, you do a lot of work too. Think about the competition that's out there. We're all in the media business, and we understand the competition that our young people are facing, social media and all the other platforms. Everybody's looking for their attention. How do we manage to look at our youth, which is very important because they are the future? How do we look to our young people to counter that? And also those of us who have the ability right now to have some influence. What do we do, in your opinion, Phil, to make sure that we can get the message out?
Well, besides our own families,
Yeah.
that's where it begins. The families and having, we're all close-knit families, so and getting together and keeping the traditions, the values. But more important than just the religion and the language, participating in the afternoon schools or day schools, wherever we have them, it's also the getting together as Greeks, as Hellenes, and really preserving those traditions and those roots and the culture that we have had. You know, in early years, you were not a learned man unless you studied Homer and Iliad and the ancient Greeks. And unless you studied those, you were not regarded as an educated man. Something happened, of course, in the right after the 1970s, where the curriculums have changed in high schools and in elementary schools, and the ancient Greek philosophy and all of those are not stressed as much as they used to. When we went to high school, we were proud to have those Greek values and be part and descendants of Greek democracy and studying the ancient Greeks. That it's not being taught as much, even in universities. But even in universities, I want to tell you about the Byzantine Studies program at Queens College, that we are trying to keep it going. 35,000 graduates out of Byzantine Studies program, and these are people that learn to speak Greek. The only other thing I can say, I can endorse the charter schools, because we went to some of the charter schools. I was just in Florida, and they're doing a wonderful job. And you see non-Greeks that are speaking Greek language. So I think it's it's many things together that we have to put. And of course, I'm glad to hear that Leadership 100 is going to be supporting the Greek schools and the Greek efforts. We only have approximately 15 university Greek studies programs across the United States. The Elides Center at Rutgers University, the Greek Studies of St. John's University, and there's so many others that need help. But they're all depending on the Greek American community to support them. And it's very difficult to support all of those programs at the same time. This is where we all come in. All the Greek Americans. We just have to keep that in mind, and I'm happy that you brought that to our attention. And you're right. You know, we have to follow some of the other nationalities, and one that is exceptional, of course, is the American Jewish community, and we have to emulate some of the things that they do. I remember when my son was 14 years old. He came to me. He says, "You know, I want to become Jewish." I said, "Why?" "I want to go to the Maccabian games and play soccer in Israel." Well, so these are some of the things, and Dino, you're here. Perhaps some of the things that I think you believe in and you understand, that we have to bring some of those programs together between Greece, and the United States, the American community, to get our kids involved. I know there's so many programs, the Ionian Village and all those things, and
Right.
I know the Archdiocese does so many programs, and the Leadership 100 does so many programs. But you're right, it's difficult.
It is, yeah.
We have 200 nationalities you said, in New York, and languages. And
But,
mixed marriages is another issue.
Exactly. But things have improved considerably. I mean, when I went into the military right after college in the Army Reserves in 1965, I was at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and I remember being out there with 550 men. And it was the first week of indoctrination, and the sergeant came out with a bullhorn speaker, and he said, "Can we have all the Catholic personnel to the left?" And all these Catholic guys moved over. He said, "Give me all the Protestant personnel to the right." And they all moved over. He said, "And give me all the Jewish personnel up in the rear." So they all moved up in the back. And there were three guys in the middle of this field, Anastas, Papadakis, and Chilakis. So my friend Chilakis says to me, "Ernie, you got a good voice. Tell him what we are." So I yelled back, I said, "We're Orthodox, sir." And he said, "Well, get up there with the Jews." And we did. It was great. We had all the holidays off. But the point I wanted to make is that we did not have a representation of the Greek Orthodox faith in 1965 in the military. And it was very difficult. We had no church services. We didn't have anything to turn to. But a lot has changed, and I thank so many of the great leaders. Yes, go ahead,
Could
Paula.
I add
Yeah,
something
add
to
that, please.
I'm so glad you said that. Archbishop Iakovos went to Vietnam, and he went for Thanksgiving to be with the soldiers. And as he was there, he did services for a couple thousand soldiers, and he saw that all of them had name tags, Jews, Catholics, Protestants, other. He was so angry. When he came back the next day, he went to Washington, went to the State Department and said, "We want a Greek Orthodox tag." And I remember through the White House, they sent a tag and they said, "We hope you're happy. This is for your people." And that's why I'm laughing with what she said. So
great
bravo,
story.
it worked.
Great story. You know, John Katzimatidis does so much on WABC radio and elsewhere. He's seen and heard in so many different platforms. And John, you deal with a lot of the issues that are affecting our community. There are political issues, too, affecting the Greek Americans, and also some of our situations that we have at the Patriarchate in Turkey. And these are serious issues. I'm just curious if you have an overview in terms of what kind of progress, John, do you hear? Because you're involved with the archons and leadership and so forth. How are we doing when it comes to some of these important issues?
Ernie, thank you. I mean, we have come a long way. Leadership 100 is taking care of North America for our kids and church. We have the Ecumenical Patriarch. We started a separate fund with them.
Yeah.
And we're taking care, I think we have 24 million, 25 million. It'll be 100 million sooner or later. 100 is easy when, we had, my biggest disappointment was we had a foundation for the Archdiocese. Poulette was there with me back a long time ago, and the money was, something went wrong. And I think the Archdiocese should have a foundation. And, it's just, we talk about, and I talk about the kids in Astoria, and I talk about that we want our kids to reach higher, pure psila, and that don't reach for low levels. In other words, if this was the Mormon Church, if this was a Jewish synagogue, we'd be talking about 100 million, and we'd be talking about 50 million. We talk about billions.
Yeah.
So I think our responsibility in this room is to maintain. Our responsibility is to maintain, to make sure our culture survives the 21st century.
Very good, John.
Then we pass it along.
Yes, much so. You know, I kind of want to go around one more time because there's a great line that says, don't worry, be happy. In 100 years, all new people. So here we are. You know, we're in this 100-year block. And so with some of your thoughts, each of you, what do you look for towards the future? What would you like to see for the Greek Americans and for Greeks everywhere in our world? What do you foresee as something that you would love to have glorified? What would you like?
Could I first share a quick story because it kind of involves around
Sure.
what John said. When the Archbishop died, Archbishop Iakovos when he retired in 96, he died in 05.
Yeah.
Someone came to his home and brought him a letter from the White House. And it was from Henry Kissinger. And it said, it was a memo to all the staff at the White House. Beware, tomorrow the Greek Archbishop Iakovos is coming. He's a fighter for Greece and Cyprus. He's very well learned, he's very smart, and he's going to fight with all his power. Be careful, you won't be able to pull anything over him. And when they gave the letter to the Archbishop, it happened that the Prime Minister of Greece, Mitsotaki's father, was calling him at the house at that time. And the Archbishop started laughing, and the Prime Minister said, Paulette, what happened? Who died? Why is he crying? I said, he's not crying. Wait, he'll tell you why. And he gets on the phone and he said, I've only been retired for 24 hours, but the best gift I have is that Henry Kissinger is afraid of me because I'm fighting for Cyprus and Greece.
Wow.
And I remember that story today because we are blessed to have Archbishop Elpidoforos. He's a young, energetic Archbishop. He comes with a lot of energy. He's for the youth. He's out there fighting for us. It's not easy to step into that chair, believe me, it's not easy. But he is doing an exceptional job, and John, being by his side, has never wavered in his commitment to the church. John has been an example for all of us to follow because he stays strong. There's a lot of opposition out there.
Yeah.
But John says, no, it's for the church. He leads the Archdiocese Council in his capacity as vice chairman. And as I go to these meetings, you talk about what do I see for the future. For the future, I see unity. I see the hope that this church, we are a major faith.
Yeah.
After the Archbishop went to Washington, we became a major faith. But with that major faith, we have a responsibility, not only to our families, not only to our church, but to the community at large. When Archbishop Iakovos marched in Selma, he didn't do it so they'd give him the Presidential Medal of Freedom. He didn't even want to go to Washington for that. But he said, I did it for the Greek-American homogenia, to realize that you are living in America. You have to be a part. You have to speak out. And that example lives very strongly in my heart because I believe unity, church, consulates, embassies, all of this comes together. But if the Archbishop doesn't come out and say, I want my people to be a part of it, they're not going to fight for us. So I believe that the church should have a very strong part in today's and tomorrow's world.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paulette. Great history. Great stories. Anastasi, when we look, give us a little nugget for us to think about now in terms of education, where we're headed, and what you would like to see. What's the future look like?
You know, I'd like to see, I'd like to walk into a room and, you know, it's usually we compare ourselves to someone. I like to see people comparing themselves to us, Ernie. I like to say, I want to be like the Greeks, or if we were more like the Greeks, instead of us saying, you know, we should follow that. No, I think we need to get there where we are the model. Instead of trying to emulate someone else. I want to see our schools flourishing. Like Mr. Katsimatidis said, we should be looking at hundreds of $millions in funds, an endowment fund for Greek education, so our schools can remain open. So my great-great-grandchildren can attend an afternoon Greek school, can attend a Greek day school. We can't have these closed. We can't have, we're moving forward. We have produced so many educated Greek Americans. we are no longer going to excuse the word vlaki. We are an educated race and a young race. A lot of people don't understand the biggest push in Greek Americans coming to the United States was in the 60s. And what we have accomplished over this time is tremendous. And we're moving further, and we're our children are educated, holding great positions. So, Ernie, I want to see a brighter future for the Greek Americans in the United States, and I hope to live to see Cyprus free. And that's
Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah, our job is not done.
Yes, exactly.
We are still moving forward.
And you know what's good too, and without mentioning all the names, but think of all the great role models that we have now, Greek Americans, whether they're in sports, entertainment business, business models, and so forth. It's just fabulous, and I think it's so great. I've always been proud when I can read a name on the air and it's a Greek name. I just bottle up inside. It just makes me feel so good. Phil, you have a lot of good things that you've been working on, so many different projects. As we look out there and we look into that crystal ball and you say, this is what I would love to see. This is my vision for the future. What is it, Phil?
Well, first of all, let me just say that I'm very proud of the Greek American community. Our community has contributed in immeasurable ways in sciences, in the academia, in the business world. We have done very well, and we are very, very proud. And our kids, every time they see a Greek name, they're very proud of it. Governor Dukakis used to say, I don't leave the movies until I see the credits at the end. And when I see a Greek name, I want to see the movie again. So it's very, very, very important. But like Anastasia said, we can go higher. And John's book, that's what it's all about. How high can we reach? And we should just continue to go that way and really bring the Greek community an even higher position. We have 5 congressmen out of 435. It would be nice to have 20 out of 435. We have no senators out of 100. We used to have 2 and 3. We used to have Sarbanes, Tsongas, and Olympias Snow. So we would like to see more advance. And I am working in terms of developing Greek American leaders with the vision, because when you have more Greek American leaders entering the political arena, I want to tell you that if there is one positive out of the tragedy of Cyprus of 1974, is the fact that we did manage to learn a little bit about the political system. Prior to 1974, Greek Americans were not really involved in the American political system and understanding whether how you pass a legislation or how you lobby to get something done. And Archbishop Iakovos helped quite a bit, and I'm very happy that His Eminence Archbishop Elpidoforos is following the same tradition in terms of the young Greek Americans. So in this thing, there's so much that we can accomplish together, and Paulette mentioned one word, unity. If it's one problem that our Greek American community has, is staying united. And that's something that we have to fight and bring the people together. Putting this parade together, it's not easy. John knows how many different groups have different views about the parade. And bringing the people together, it's very, very important.
We're really looking forward to that too, Phil.
I hope so. And I see so many distinguished people here, and I want to say it tonight at the consulate. You know, the Hellenic Medical Society, the Hellenic Lawyers Association, the Hellenic Bankers Association, the Hellenic Initiative, everything that starts with Hellenic. They're not participating. Where are they? Bring them. We have to bring them in. And bring them in.
There's the call. There's the call, Effie.
We have to bring them all in to participate, to be part of our parade. And like John says, is how high we want to go, and we want to go much, much higher.
Thank you, Phil. I appreciate that. And John, as our fearless leader, any final thoughts before we wrap up this?
One final thought is, I want to bring our kids closer together, to the church, closer together, to how was it George Doris used to say? Oli Mazi.
Oli Mazi.
Oli Mazi. And God, I think one of the things in the church, I think my opinion, it's up to the Archbishop, it's up to the Patriarch, to be able to have at least one liturgy in English and one liturgy in Greek. That way, we satisfy everybody.
Yes.
And my kids are disappointed. I didn't push them enough to learn more Greek at a young age. John Jr. is starting to learn more. AJ, daughters are tough.
They're good kids, though. Good kids.
But that's what they're good
Absolutely,
kids.
absolutely.
And that's what I think. We got to preserve our language. We have to preserve our church.
Right.
And preserve our way of life, and
Yes.
and always look back and say, this was the beginning of democracy,
Yep.
and always be proud of where our forefathers came from.
Absolutely. Thank you, John, for that. This is, we could continue with this because I love listening to so many good comments, and it would be great if we had a roving microphone to go out there and talk to all of you. But I want to thank you, Ambassador Dinos, for being here. This is a wonderful thing, Your Excellency. Kostas, thank you for joining us. Margot and Effie, this whole panel has just been wonderful. I think you guys are terrific. A nice round of applause for everybody on our panel. We're decorated in the blue and white here at WABC Radio, and there'll be a festive. We're going to have some singing and entertainment coming up, right, Effie? So we're looking forward to that.
And this video is going to be on the WABC website that reaches as many as 20 million people a month.
Wonderful. So we're looking forward to that. Thank you, everybody.